Pay attention to this footage. This is 29-year-old Rebecca Lawson and 32-year-old Daniel Kerr. They've just finished dinner in their modest two-bedroom apartment in Millbrook, Pennsylvania. Then Rebecca is seen in the kitchen, pouring hot tea from a kettle into a cup. Moments later, CCTV footage shows them in the living room. Daniel is sitting on the sofa, headphones on, finishing a work call. Rebecca stands at the counter like she's carrying something heavy on her mind. To anyone watching, they look like a couple holding on by a thread. But watch her hands. Then, footage from the kitchen shows her adding a substance to the cup and stirring it with a spoon. After 60 seconds, she carries the cup of a hot tea into the living room with a soft smile and places it beside Daniel's laptop. "Thought you might need it," she says. "Thanks, babe." He looks up, grateful, tired. By morning, Daniel is violently ill, vomiting, disoriented, his body shutting down. Rebecca rushes him to the hospital, playing the worried girlfriend perfectly. And when doctors run a toxicology screen, they find something chilling: ethylene glycol, antifreeze. But here's what Rebecca doesn't know. 2 months earlier, Daniel installed hidden cameras throughout the apartment, not because he suspected her of anything, but because package thieves had been hitting their building. 4 cameras, motion activated, cloud connected, recording everything. And when detectives review the footage, they uncover something horrifying. Whatever Rebecca poured into that glass, she knew exactly what she was doing. Rebecca Lawson and Daniel Kerr met in the winter of 2021 at a coffee shop in downtown Millbrook, a sleepy town 40 minutes west of Harrisburg. She'd just finished a brutal overnight shift at Millbrook General. He was nursing a cold brew and debugging code on his laptop. Their eyes met. He made a joke about her stethoscope. She laughed, genuinely, for the first time in weeks. By spring, they were inseparable. Friends described them as that couple, the kind who finished each other's sentences, who cooked together on Sunday nights and took long drives through the Appalachian foothills with no destination in mind. Daniel was quiet, thoughtful, a little awkward in crowds, but fiercely loyal. Rebecca was warm, nurturing, the kind of person who remembered your birthday and brought soup when you were sick. But beneath the surface, cracks had begun to form. Rebecca's job was draining her. 12-hour shifts, understaffed wards, parents screaming at her over wait times she couldn't control. She started drinking more: wine at dinner, vodka before bed. Daniel noticed. He suggested therapy. She deflected. Fights became more frequent. Small things, dishes left in the sink, plans canceled last minute, escalated into shouting matches that left them both exhausted. And then there was the money. In July 2023, Daniel discovered that Rebecca had opened 3 credit cards in his name without telling him. $17,000 in debt. Online shopping, cash advances, payments to accounts he didn't recognize. When he confronted her, she broke down, cried, said she had a problem, promised she'd get help. He believed her. He wanted to. But trust, once fractured, is hard to rebuild. By September 2023, Daniel had made a decision he hadn't shared with anyone. He was planning to leave. Not immediately. He wanted to do it right, gently, without cruelty. He'd already started looking at studio apartments across town. He told himself he'd wait until after her birthday in October. Give her one last good memory before breaking her heart. Rebecca, somehow, knew. Maybe it was the way he'd grown distant, the way he no longer talked about next summer or their future, the way he flinched, almost imperceptibly, when she touched his arm. She couldn't lose him. Wouldn't. And so, 3 weeks before that Thursday night in September, Rebecca Lawson began researching. Thursday, September 28th, 2023. The day started like any other. Daniel woke at 7:15 a.m., made coffee, kissed Rebecca on the forehead before she left for her shift. She texted him at noon, "Miss you already," and he replied with a thumbs-up emoji. Routine, unremarkable. But Rebecca's browser history from that morning told a different story. She'd searched undetectable poisons, household items. Then, symptoms heart attack versus poisoning. Then, how long does antifreeze stay in system? At 3:42 p.m., she stopped at a hardware store on Route 22. Security footage shows her purchasing a bottle of ethylene glycol, automotive antifreeze. The cashier, a bored teenager named Marcus Holt, wouldn't remember her until police showed him her photo 6 days later. Rebecca came home at 6:30 p.m. Daniel was on a Zoom call, so she went straight to the kitchen. She poured a small amount of the antifreeze into an empty prescription bottle, one that had once held her anxiety medication, and hid it in the pocket of her favorite cardigan, a soft gray thing she wore almost every evening. At 9:47 p.m., she made her move. 3 drops. That's all it took. Ethylene glycol is insidious. It's sweet-tasting, nearly odorless, and in small doses mimics the symptoms of flu or food poisoning. In larger doses, or repeated over time, it crystallizes in the kidneys, leading to acute renal failure. Death can take days. Painful, confused, undiagnosed. Daniel drank half the glass before setting it down to finish an email. Rebecca sat beside him on the couch, scrolling through her phone, her leg pressed against his. Casual. Intimate. By 11 p.m., he was nauseous. By midnight, vomiting. Rebecca played the concerned girlfriend perfectly. Brought him water, held his hair back, suggested it might be something he ate for lunch. But Daniel's head was pounding. His vision blurred. He stumbled to bed and passed out hard, too exhausted to question anything. Rebecca sat in the living room until 3 a.m., staring at the wall, her face unreadable in the glow of her phone screen. He called in sick to work, spent the day in bed, sweating through his sheets. Rebecca brought him soup, checked his temperature, kissed his forehead. "Maybe we should take you to the ER," she suggested. Sunday morning, they went to the hospital. At Millbrook General, doctor ran blood work. Elevated creatinine levels, kidney distress. She asked Daniel about his diet, medications, recent travel. Nothing unusual. She admitted him for observation, started him on IV fluids, and ordered a toxicology screen. Standard protocol for unexplained renal symptoms. That's when things got strange. The tox screen came back Tuesday morning. Ethylene glycol. Trace amounts, but unmistakable. Doctor's expression darkened. She called the hospital's ethics board, then the police. Detectives arrived within the hour. Officers sat beside Daniel's bed and asked the question that would unravel everything. Who has access to your food and drinks? Daniel's face went blank, then pale. "My girlfriend," he whispered. Detective interviewed Rebecca that evening at the apartment. Rebecca was tearful, shocked, cooperative. "I don't understand," she kept saying. "How could this happen? We eat the same things, drink the same things." Officer noted the inconsistency. If they shared everything, why wasn't Rebecca sick? They obtained a warrant to search the apartment. Wednesday morning, forensic techs swept the place. They found the amber vial in Rebecca's cardigan pocket, tucked in the laundry hamper. Still contained trace amounts of ethylene glycol. But the real breakthrough came when Detective asked Daniel about security. "Do you have any cameras in the apartment?" Daniel's eyes widened. "Oh my God, yes. I forgot. I set them up in July." Detective watched the kitchen camera feed from Thursday night 3 times. Each time, the same sequence. Rebecca glancing toward the hallway, reaching into her pocket, tipping the vial, stirring, walking away. Premeditated, calculated, cold. But there was more. The team pulled footage from the previous 2 weeks. On September 14th, 2 weeks before Daniel got sick, Rebecca had done the same thing, poured something into his coffee. He'd complained of a headache that afternoon but brushed it off. On September 21st, again, this time into his water bottle before he left for a rare in-person work meeting. He'd felt dizzy during the drive home, blamed it on stress. She'd been poisoning him slowly, testing doses, watching his reactions. On Thursday, October 5th, 2023, detectives arrested Rebecca Lawson at the hospital where she worked. She was coming off a shift, still in scrubs, carrying her lunch bag. They read her rights in the staff parking lot under gray autumn skies. Rebecca didn't resist, didn't cry, just stared at them with empty eyes and said, "I loved him. I just wanted him to need me again." At the station, she confessed. She admitted to the poisoning, explained that she'd read about antifreeze online, thought small doses might make Daniel sick enough to depend on her, to see her as indispensable. She never intended to kill him, not really. She just wanted to keep him. "I knew he was leaving," she whispered. "I couldn't let him go." Forensic psychologist Doctor would later testify that Rebecca exhibited traits consistent with dependent personality disorder and pathological fear of abandonment. But the law doesn't care about motive when the act is attempted murder. Rebecca Lawson was charged with attempted murder and aggravated assault. At trial, the defense argued diminished capacity, mental illness, stress from her job, unresolved trauma from a childhood marked by instability. The prosecution presented the security footage, the vial, the tox reports. They painted a picture of a woman who chose control over love, possession over trust. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on both counts. In January 2024, Rebecca was sentenced to 12 years in state prison with the possibility of parole after 8. Daniel attended the sentencing but didn't speak. He sat in the back row, pale and thin, still recovering from kidney damage that would affect him for the rest of his life. After the hearing, he gave a brief statement to reporters outside the courthouse. "I loved her. I would have done anything for her. She didn't have to do this. She just had to let me go." He moved to Pittsburgh 3 months later, changed his number, started therapy. Friends say he's doing better now, slowly rebuilding, learning to trust again. But the cameras are still there, in his new apartment, always recording, just in case. Rebecca writes him letters from prison. He's never opened one. Doctor, the ER physician who caught the poisoning, says this case changed how she approaches unexplained renal failure. "We're trained to look for disease," she said in a later interview. "Sometimes we forget to look for intent." Millbrook is quieter now. The coffee shop where Rebecca and Daniel met closed during the pandemic. The apartment they shared has new tenants, a young family who don't know the story, who cook dinner in that kitchen and drink water from those glasses and never think twice about what happened there. But the footage remains, archived, time-stamped, a digital ghost of the moment love became obsession, care became cruelty, and a woman who swore she'd never hurt anyone poured poison into the glass of the man she claimed to love. Some crimes announce themselves with violence: breaking glass, screams in the night, blood on white tile. But Rebecca Lawson's crime was quieter. It happened in the soft glow of a kitchen light, with a loving smile and a glass of iced tea. It was intimate, invisible, the kind of betrayal that doesn't leave bruises but shatters something deeper. The belief that the person who knows you best won't use that knowledge to destroy you. Rebecca Lawson was charged with attempted murder and aggravated assault. At trial, the defense argued diminished capacity, mental illness, stress from her job, unresolved trauma from a childhood marked by instability. The prosecution presented the security footage, the vial, the tox reports. They painted a picture of a woman who chose control over love, possession over trust. The jury deliberated for 4 hours, guilty on both counts. In January 2024, Rebecca was sentenced to 12 years in state prison with the possibility of parole after 8. Daniel attended the sentencing but didn't speak. He sat in the back row, pale and thin, still recovering from kidney damage that would affect him for the rest of his life. After the hearing, he gave a brief statement to reporters outside the courthouse. "I loved her. I would have done anything for her. She didn't have to do this. She just had to let me go." He moved to Pittsburgh 3 months later, changed his number, started therapy. Friends say he's doing better now, slowly rebuilding, learning to trust again. But the cameras are still there, in his new apartment, always recording, just in case. Rebecca writes him letters from prison. He's never opened one. Doctor, the ER physician who caught the poisoning, says this case changed how she approaches unexplained renal failure. "We're trained to look for disease," she said in a later interview. "Sometimes we forget to look for intent." Millbrook is quieter now. The coffee shop where Rebecca and Daniel met closed during the pandemic. The apartment they shared has new tenants, a young family who don't know the story, who cook dinner in that kitchen and drink water from those glasses and never think twice about what happened there. But the footage remains, archived, time-stamped, a digital ghost of the moment love became obsession, care became cruelty, and a woman who swore she'd never hurt anyone poured poison into the glass of the man she claimed to love. Some crimes announce themselves with violence: breaking glass, screams in the night, blood on white tile. But Rebecca Lawson's crime was quieter. It happened in the soft glow of a kitchen light, with a loving smile and a glass of iced tea. It was intimate, invisible, the kind of betrayal that doesn't leave bruises but shatters something deeper. The belief that the person who knows you best won't use that knowledge to destroy you. The footage haunts detectives. She's seen murders, assaults, domestic violence that left victims unrecognizable. But something about watching Rebecca pour poison into Daniel's drink, so calmly, so deliberately, like she was adding sugar, stays with her. It wasn't rage, detective said months later. It was calculation. That's what scared me. She wasn't out of control. She was completely in control. And that made her more dangerous. Psychologists who've studied the case point to Rebecca's history. A mother who abandoned her at 12, foster homes, relationships that ended badly, a pattern of clinging too tightly and watching people leave. By the time she met Daniel, she'd convinced herself that if she loved someone hard enough, perfectly enough, they couldn't abandon her. But love isn't supposed to be a prison, and when Daniel started pulling away, emotionally, quietly, Rebecca didn't see a man making a healthy choice. She saw the inevitable, the abandonment she'd feared her entire life. And she decided she'd rather make him need her through sickness than lose him to freedom. What she didn't understand is that needing someone and loving someone aren't the same thing. In prison, Rebecca has reportedly become a model inmate. She works in the infirmary, helps other women, writes poetry in a journal she keeps under her pillow. Her therapist says she's making progress, confronting the fear that drove her to such desperate measures. But remorse and understanding don't erase the crime. They don't give Daniel his health back, or his trust, or the 3 years he spent building a life with someone who was slowly killing him. And they don't answer the question that keeps people awake after hearing this story. How well do you really know the person you love? The cameras captured everything, but they couldn't capture the moment Rebecca decided that losing Daniel was worse than hurting him. They couldn't capture the loneliness so vast it swallowed reason, or the fear so primal it turned a nurse, a healer, into something monstrous. In the end, Rebecca Lawson didn't just poison Daniel Kerr. She poisoned the one thing they'd built together: trust. And once trust dies, no amount of love can bring it back. Daniel keeps one photo of them, not displayed, buried in a folder on his laptop he never opens. In it, they're at the park, autumn leaves falling, her head on his shoulder, both of them smiling like nothing could ever go wrong. He's thought about deleting it 1,000 times, but something stops him. Maybe it's proof that it was real once, or maybe it's a reminder that love, when it twists into fear, can become the most dangerous thing in the world. Rebecca is eligible for parole in 2032. Daniel has already decided he won't attend the hearing. Some doors, once closed, should stay that way. It was more than a crime. It was a mirror, reflecting how far love can fall when it turns to fear. And in that reflection, we see not a monster, but a person who forgot that letting go is sometimes the only way to truly love someone.